Hello everyone. So welcome to my new video on Civil Procedure Code 1908. So we are still continuing with the place of suing. So in the last video, I have mentioned about this section 20, 21, and 22. In this video, we're going to talk about the section 23, 24, and 25. So let us take a look what section 23 is all about. So by going through the definition of the Bayer Act. Okay, to what court application lies whether several courts having jurisdiction are subordinate to the same appellate court. An application under Section 22 shall be made to the appellate court. So, where such courts are subordinate to different appellate courts but to the same high court, the application shall be made to the said high court. Where such courts are subordinate to different high courts, the application shall be made to the high court within local limits of whose jurisdiction the court in which suit is brought is situated. Okay, so these are the three conditions which are mentioned in the section 23. Okay, so this section 23, it's like to what court an application lies. Okay, when a defendant wants to transfer, okay, suit, which is mentioned specifically under section 22 of CPC, the application should be made to the correct authority. Okay, so section 23 tells to which court the court has a power to consider such transfer applications. Okay, there are three situations, okay, which are mentioned, like I have read through the definition. So under section 23, okay, so when all the courts are under the same appellate court, okay, if all the courts that have jurisdiction over the suit are subordinate to the same appellate court, then okay, so then what happens is like the transfer application should be made to the appellate court. Okay, so like I'll give you an example for this to understand very clearly. So there are two courts. Okay, one is like court A and court B. Okay, so possible like we can institute the suit at the both the courts. Both the courts have the jurisdiction. Both court A and court B. Okay, so these courts are subordinate to the district court. Okay, then in that case, so where should the application for transfer should be made? Okay, so the transfer of like application of suit should be made to the district court. Okay, so this is what the like the condition specifically talks about. Okay, and let's see like what is like condition 2 as per the so as per the condition 2, when courts are under different appellate courts, okay, but same high court, if the possible courts fall under the different appellate courts but all are within the same high court, so it may be like what happens is like the court A and B, okay, so the which are under the like different appellate courts, okay, but they fall under the same high court, okay, then the application should be made to the high court. Okay, so I'll give you an example like court A is under appellate X, okay, court B is under the appellate court Y. Okay, but both X and Y like fall under the same high court. Okay, so in this specific scenario, I would like to take the see the A court and B court. Okay, A is under X, B is under Y. Okay, but X and Y fall under the Madras High Court. Okay, then application should be submitted to the Madras High Court to transfer the suit. Okay, when the courts are under different high courts, okay, if the courts are subordinate, this is the third condition. So to move the transfer application, so to file the transfer application, and if the courts are subordinate to different high courts, so then the original transfer application must be made to the high court, okay, where the suit was originally filed. This is because generally what happens, so here like where court A where suit is filed, okay, under Delhi High Court, court B which is like an alternative jurisdiction court under like which is under the Punjab and Haryana High Court, okay, then application must be made to the Delhi High Court because the suit is filed in a court under Delhi High Court. Okay, this is generally done because of to avoid confusion and ensure clarity. Okay, so the purpose of like section 23 is like no confusion about which court the transfer application should be made to and whether the courts have the jurisdiction or not. So while making it while moving the transfer application, though they should specifically see if they have the jurisdiction to move it. So and one more like there are few more things like it should be like smooth and orderly procedure. Okay, so and like prevention of conflicting orders from different courts. So there might be a possibility that see they don't have the jurisdiction but still they go ahead and try that. So normally this will not happen, but in order to avoid the conflicting situation, so this section 23 speaks about like which court have the power or the jurisdiction to the transfer application should be made to. Okay, and one more thing is like proper hierarchy is maintained. Okay, so the appellate court has the authority to see if the transfer application is perfect while moving to the particular court jurisdiction. So this is all about section 23. Let me go through the section 24. Okay, so section 24. Let me read the definition of BERAC. So general power of transfer and withdrawal. So this is talks about the general power, okay, for the transfer and the withdrawal of a suit on the application of any of the parties and after notice to the parties after hearing such of them as desired to be heard or of its motion without such notice the High Court or District Court may at any stage. Okay, so this might be the transfer or withdrawal of an application generally is done on the application of one of the parties. Okay, so this is one if the one party is filing an application to move the suit from one court to another court. So a notice is sent to the other party, so which may be co-defendant or which may be a plaintiff. Okay, so after hearing from both the sides the arguments or like the benefits or like whatever it is, so the high court will decide or the district court will decide at any stage will decide. So we'll read the further definition. Transfer any suit, appeal or other proceeding pending before it for trial or disposal to any court subordinate to it and competent to try or dispose of the same, or withdraw any suit, appeal or other proceeding pending any court subordinate to it, try or dispose of the same, transfer the same for trial or disposal to any court subordinate to it and competent to try or dispose of the same, or transfer the same for trial or disposal to the court from which it was withdrawn, where any suit or proceeding has been transferred or withdrawn under subsection 1. Okay, the court which one tried to dispose of any suit or proceeding may subject to any special directions in the case of an order of transfer either retried or proceed from the point at which it was transferred or withdrawn. For the purpose of this section, the courts of additional and assistant judges shall be deemed to be subordinate to the district court. Okay. Proceeding includes a proceeding for the execution of a decree or order. The court trying any suit transferred or withdrawn under this section from a court of small causes shall, for the purpose of such suit may be deemed to be a court of small causes. A suit or proceeding may be transferred under this section from a court which has no jurisdiction to try it. So let me explain what exactly is all about. Section 24 speaks about. So this is talks about the general power of transfer and withdrawal. Okay. So it is like which gives a wide and discretionary powers to both high courts and the district court, okay, to transfer the cases from one court to another, okay, withdraw cases from subordinate courts and handle them directly, okay. So we can, the suits can be withdrawn, okay, from subordinate courts, and they can handle them directly, okay, which is like the high court and the district court, okay. This section can be used if section 22 does not apply. It is much broader, okay, and more flexible. Like what the subsection 1 speaks about is like powers of high court and district. So the powers of high court and district court, so at any stage of the case, okay, what it does is like it transfers the cases as per the application which was submitted by the party, okay. So they may transfer any suit, appeal, or proceeding pending before themselves, okay, to any subordinate court that is competent to try it, okay. So if the high court has a power, the high court has a power to transfer the case from like from court A to court B or C, okay. So the high court has a power to do that, okay, or the any district court which is, comes under that, so they can do it, okay. And they can also like withdraw the cases. They may withdraw any suit, okay, appeal or proceeding from subordinate court and then try it themselves. So what happens is during like some situations, specific situations, so the high court will or the district court, so it feels that, so it is like the lower court, the scope of the case suit is like beyond that thing. So they, if the higher court or the appellate court, so they think that the scope of the suit is the wider, and they themselves needs to try this suit. Then they will withdraw the cases from the lower court, and they will hear it by themselves, either the appellate court or the high court. So, and they can do the transfer to another component, like competent subordinate court, okay, or they can also like transfer it back to the original court from where it was withdrawn, okay. So what happens is the court A and court B, okay. So the court A is like initially the suit was filed in court A, okay, and the defendant made an transfer application. So the suit from the court A has moved to a court B, okay. Then someone like or one of the parties might have made an application to the higher court or the appellate court, which is a district court. So they think that the the transfer application, the suit which was transferred based on the transfer application, so they feel that the original court, which was initially has taken up the case, the case should be transferred from B to A again. They think that is a right court to listen to that suit. Then they will retransfer it, okay. So notice and hearing, if an application is filed by a party, okay, notice and hearing are mandatory because the defendant makes a transfer application. So once the application is filed before the court, so the court will listen to it, the difficulties of the defendant to transfer, or so there might be some injustice which is happening, so they feel that this code, the particular code is not enough to competent enough to listen to the suit, so they will transfer it. So based on his based on his application, they feel that, so then they need to give issue a notice, and need to hear like what are the pros and cons, why do they need the transfer. So once they listen to it, then if the court is also like acts on its own motion like suo moto, so like based on the suit, so they feel that this suit needs to be listened by some other court, then the court notice is not required for those transfer applications, okay. So yeah, this is specifically about the subsection 1, okay. What subsection 2 it talks about is like effect after transfer withdrawal. So what happens after the transfer withdrawal? So the court is now going to try or dispose of the case. Okay, may start a fresh retrial. Okay, so once the transfer has happened to another court, so they may start a fresh retrial. Okay, or may continue from the stage where the case was left in the previous court. Okay, so this depends upon the court's discretion. Okay, so whoever has taken up the suit from, like, suppose I told you in the earlier example, the court was initially filed in court A. So based on the transfer application from one of the parties, so they moved from court A to court B. During that time, they feel once they move, the court uh, B can continue the same. They continue from the stage where the case was left in court A. Okay, so that can happen, or if they feel if they feel that if they feel if it is a start a fresh trial, then they can start a fresh trial. Okay, so this depends upon the court discretion and the like and any special directions in the transfer order. So based on that, so the court will listen to it. Okay, so and coming to this, like, subsection 3. Okay, what it takes is like what it's telling is like meaning of subordinate court. So for section 24, so courts of additional and assistant judges, okay, so are deemed subordinate to court. Okay, so they are like the courts which are like the civil courts, so which are like, or the judges and assist additional judges are deemed, so because they are deemed to be less subordinate to district court. Okay, and the proceeding includes, so they might be like execution proceedings to execute a decree or a court order. So this means like even in execution cases can also be transferred and also be withdrawn. So and what subsection 4 is talks about it, transferred cases from small causes court. Okay, so if a case is transferred from a court of small cases, so if a transfer application is made by either of the parties, so in during that situation, like if the like the suit has moved from the small causes court, then the court to which it is transferred, it's treated like a small causes court only. Okay, but only for that particular suit, not for the other suits. This ensures consistency in how the case is handled. Okay, and we move on to subsection 5. So this is like a transfer allowed even if the original court lacks jurisdiction. So very important point is mentioned in the subsection 5. Okay, so a case can be transferred under section 24 even from a court that did not have jurisdiction to try it in the first place. Okay, this protects the parties from failure of justice, so due to jurisdictional mistakes. Example, like I can give you as like suit mistakenly filed in a court. Okay, without pecuniary jurisdiction. So high court, district court can still transfer it to a proper court. Okay, even though there's like, because they feel that, so some court have got the filing from one of the parties where by mistakenly they filed a case. Okay, but that doesn't have a pecuniary jurisdiction. Then like the high court so feels that, or the district court feels that it is not competent, so they can still transfer to proper court. Okay, so this is what happens in this. So I would like to like give it in very simple words. So like it section 24 gives very broad powers to high court and district court because they can move cases around. Okay, so they can like stop from preventing delays. Okay, it prevents delays. Okay, so it feels that the court which is tried should be tried fairly. Okay, and avoid inconvenience to parties, witnesses, and the judicial system. Okay, and it can be like used by application or by court itself at any stages of the case. It can happen. The transfer application can happen at any stage of the case, even when the initial court had no jurisdiction. Okay, during that time it can happen. So now we move on to like the last section in this place of suing is section 25. Okay, so this section 25 is all about like power of Supreme Court to transfer suit. Okay, so here like on the application of a party after notice to the parties and after hearing such of them as desired to be heard, the Supreme Court may at any stage, if satisfied that an order under this section is expedient for the ends of justice, directs that any suit, appeal, or other proceeding to transfer from a higher court or the civil court in one state to a high court or other civil court in another state. Every application under this section shall be made by motion which shall be supported by an affidavit. The court to which suit, appeal, or other proceeding is transferred shall, subject to any special directions in order of transfer, either retry it or proceed from the stage at which was transferred to it. In dismissing any application under this section, the Supreme Court may, if it is of opinion that the application was frivolous, vexatious, order the applicant to pay by way of compensation to any person who has opposed the application such sum not exceeding 2000 rupees as it considers appropriate in the circumstances of the case. The law applicable to any suit, appeal, or other proceeding transferred under this section shall be the law which the court in which the suit, appeal, or proceeding was originally instituted, ought to have applied to such suit, appeal, or proceeding. Okay, let me tell you what exactly is section 25. So, which is like a power of Supreme Court. Okay, the Supreme Court of India has the authority to transfer a civil suit, appeal, or any proceeding. Okay, from a high court or any civil court in one state. Okay, so it can move the transfer application from one high court to or a civil court in one state to a high court or civil court in another state. Okay, so this is the highest level of transfer power. Okay, so it has the like it's a ultimate. So the Supreme Court is the ultimate. It's the apex court of India. So it has all the powers. So to transfer, so when and how the Supreme Court will transfer, the subsection 1 talks about it. So the Supreme Court may order a transfer if it is satisfied that a transfer is necessary for the ends of justice. Okay, this can happen when the fair trial is not possible. So there are like specific situations under which the Supreme Court feels that so this the case needs to be transferred, so then it will transfer the suit. Okay, there is a reasonable apprehension of bias. Okay, when there is a bias, okay, in one court, so the suit needs to be transferred to a different court. When there is a safety issue of a party or a witness is at risk, so witness has a like, risk of his life, so it is nowhere like the justice can be done to either of the parties, or they can move the uh, case from one jurisdiction to different jurisdiction or one state to a different state, so that to avoid the risk of the witnesses, there might be possibility that witness might be threatened to not to give uh, evidence. Serious inconvenience exists. Okay, cases in two states needs to be consolidated when there are two cases. So then in that situation, maybe this might be a possibility that there might be a water issue between these two states, or there might be another thing. So then the two states so can be heard in another state. Okay, public interest requires the transfer. So important points: application must be made by one of the parties. Okay, notice must be given. So what happens is like there might be one application which needs to be given to the court saying that they need to transfer the application. During that time, uh, this Supreme Court can pitch in and they can take a decision to transfer. So, but the notice must be given to another party. Both parties must be given a chance to be heard. Okay. Supreme Court can transfer the case at any stage. Okay. Even late stages also the Supreme Court can transfer. So subsection 2 is talks about the requirements for filing application. Every application must be made by a motion. Okay, must be supported by an so it should be made by a motion. Motion must be supported by an affidavit. There should be an affidavit which should be submitted explaining the reasons why transfer is necessary. Okay, this ensures that the frivolous applications are avoided. So based on the reasons, so Supreme Court will transfer the suit. And subsection 3, how the new court proceeds. So there is a possibility that Supreme Court may give the advice. So once the Supreme Court transfers the case, the receiving court may retry the case. Okay, continue from the stage where it was left. That depends upon the Supreme Court's direction. So Supreme Court will direct whether it should continue the case from where it has stopped being heard in that particular court. So during that time, the Supreme Court gives clear guidelines saying how the uh, court should like handle the case. So whether it has to retry the entire case from the beginning or continue from the stage. Okay. And subsection 4, penalty for frivolous application. So if the Supreme Court finds that the transfer application was frivolous or vexatious filed only to harass, because what happens is like when the parties file the suit generally to harass some other party, during that time Supreme Court sees whether it is doing unwantedly or like you wanted to trouble the other party, then based on that it may order compensation up to 2000 or it should be paid to opposing party. This discourages misuse of section 25. Okay. So subsection 5, law applicable for after transfer. Okay, what happens is the even if the case is transferred to another state, the original applicable laws still continue to apply, which may be like substantial law, procedure law, or local laws relevant to original.